The coffee shop hadn't changed much in 10 years. Same brick walls, same mismatched furniture, same smell of espresso and cinnamon. But as Marcus pushed through the door, everything felt different because of the man sitting by the window. Ethan looked up from his laptop, and for a moment, time seemed to collapse. Those same green eyes that had watched Marcus climb trees and skip stones across the lake. The same crooked smile that had made Marcus's 13-year-old heart race in ways he didn't understand back then. "Marcus," Ethan stood, nearly knocking over his coffee. "Oh my God, is that really you?" "Ethan Chen, still causing chaos wherever you go, I see." Marcus grinned, gesturing to the wobbling cup. They hugged, that awkward, back-patting hug of old friends who aren't sure where they stand anymore. But something electric passed between them. A current Marcus felt all the way to his bones. Sit. Ethan pulled out a chair. "I can't believe it's you. What are you doing back in Riverside?" "My mom needed help moving into a smaller place," Marcus explained, settling into the chair. "I'm here for the month, you." "I moved back last year, took a job at the hospital. I'm a physical therapist now." Ethan's eyes sparkled with pride. "Remember how we used to talk about leaving this town and never coming back? And yet here we both are." Marcus studied his old friend. Ethan had grown into himself beautifully. The gangly, awkward kid who'd been Marcus's partner in crime from age 8 to 15 was now a confident man with laugh lines around his eyes and the kind of presence that made people look twice. "Life's funny that way," Ethan said softly. "I missed this place more than I thought I would, missed the people." Something in his tone made Marcus's pulse quicken. Yeah. Ethan held his gaze for a moment too long before looking away. "So, tell me everything. Last I heard, you were in Seattle doing something with computers." They talked for 2 hours. The coffee shop filled and emptied around them while they caught up on a decade of life. Marcus learned that Ethan had dated a guy named Andrew for 3 years before it ended amicably. Ethan learned that Marcus had come out to his family at 21 and had been single for the past year after a painful breakup. "You know what's weird?" Marcus said as they finally stood to leave. "I used to have the biggest crush on you when we were kids." The words tumbled out before he could stop them. Ethan froze, hand on the door. "You did?" "Yeah, I didn't understand it then. Just knew I wanted to be around you all the time. Wanted you to think I was cool." Marcus laughed nervously. "Sorry, that's probably weird to bring up after all these years." "No, Ethan's voice was strange. "It's not weird. Can I tell you something?" "Sure." "That's why I stopped calling after my family moved away. I was 15 and confused and scared because I felt the same way. My dad made some comment about us being too close, and I panicked. Thought if I put distance between us, these feelings would go away." Marcus felt like the ground had shifted beneath his feet. "Ethan." "I'm sorry. I should have reached out, should have stayed in touch. But I was a scared kid who didn't know how to process what I was feeling." They stood on the sidewalk outside the coffee shop, the afternoon sun warm on their faces, everything unsaid hanging in the air between them. "Well," Marcus said carefully, "we're not kids anymore." Ethan met his eyes. "No, we're not. And I still think you're pretty cool." A slow smile spread across Ethan's face. "You want to get dinner tomorrow? Like, a real dinner, a date?" Marcus's heart soared. "I'd really like that." The next evening, Ethan picked Marcus up in a beat-up Honda that he claimed had character. They drove out to the lake where they'd spent countless summer days as kids, but instead of the old swimming spot, Ethan took them to a small Italian restaurant that had opened on the shore. "This place didn't exist when we were young," Ethan said as they sat on the patio, watching the sunset paint the water gold and pink. "But I thought you might like it." "It's perfect." Marcus realized he meant it. Everything about this moment felt perfect. The setting, the company, the way his stomach fluttered every time Ethan smiled at him. Over pasta and wine, they talked about the harder things. Marcus shared how his breakup had left him questioning whether he'd ever find someone who truly understood him. Ethan confessed that moving back to Riverside had felt like admitting defeat, like he was running away from the life he'd tried to build in Chicago. "But now I'm glad I came back," Ethan said, "because you're here." "I'm only here for a few more weeks," Marcus reminded him gently. "I know, but maybe—" Ethan reached across the table, his fingers brushing Marcus's hand. "Maybe we don't think about that right now. Maybe we just see where this goes." Marcus laced their fingers together. "I'd like that." They spent the next 3 weeks inseparable. Ethan took time off work, and Marcus postponed his return to Seattle twice. They revisited all their old haunts: the creek where they'd built a fort that collapsed in the first rainstorm, the treehouse in Ethan's old backyard that somehow still stood, the arcade that was now a vintage clothing store. But they also made new memories. They cooked dinner together in Ethan's apartment, arguing playfully about the right amount of garlic. They went to a summer concert in the park and slow danced under the stars while children ran circles around them. They stayed up until 3 in the morning talking about their dreams, their fears, their theories about why they'd been brought back together. "Do you believe in fate?" Marcus asked one night as they lay on a blanket in Ethan's backyard, watching the stars. "I didn't used to," Ethan admitted. "But then you walked into that coffee shop." Marcus turned his head to look at him. "I don't want to go back to Seattle." "Don't say that if you don't mean it." "I mean it. I can work remotely. I could." Marcus took a breath. "I could stay if you wanted me to." Ethan rolled onto his side, propping himself up on his elbow. "Marcus, I've spent 10 years wondering what happened to you, wondering if you were happy, if you'd found someone, if you ever thought about me. And now you're here and it's like finding a part of myself I didn't know was missing." "Is that a yes?" "That's a please don't leave." Ethan leaned down and kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. Marcus kissed him back, tasting possibility and hope and coming home. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the doorway of their apartment, watching Ethan arrange books on the shelf. Most of Marcus's things had arrived from Seattle last week, and they were still in the process of figuring out whose furniture to keep and how to blend their lives together. "You're starring," Ethan said without turning around. "Can you blame me?" Ethan looked over his shoulder and grinned. "I guess not. I'm pretty easy on the eyes." Marcus crossed the room and wrapped his arms around Ethan from behind. "You know what I was actually thinking?" "What?" That 13-year-old Marcus would be losing his mind right now, getting to live with his best friend, who he had a massive, confusing crush on. Ethan turned in his arms. "What about 30-year-old Marcus?" 30-year-old Marcus is the happiest he's ever been." "Good," Ethan said softly, "because 30-year-old Ethan is planning to spend a very long time making sure that stays true." They kissed in the middle of their living room, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes and mismatched furniture and the life they were building together. Outside, Riverside carried on as it always had, the same small town where they'd grown up, played, and dreamed of escape. But they'd learned what so many people discover. Sometimes the thing you're searching for has been waiting for you all along. Sometimes you have to leave to appreciate where you came from. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you get a second chance with the person who knew you before you knew yourself. Marcus pulled back just enough to rest his forehead against Ethan's. "I love you." Ethan's eyes shimmered. "I love you too, always have, even when I didn't know what it meant." "So what now?" "Now," Ethan smiled. "Now we finish unpacking, order too much Thai food, fall asleep on the couch watching bad movies, wake up tomorrow and do it all again." "That sounds perfect." "Yeah," Ethan agreed, pulling him close again. "It really does." And it was.